Hello my darlings and welcome. Today I'd love to show you how I made a magic wand for my altar using deer antler and quartz crystal. Let's do some magical crafting. I love coffee, and today it looks like my coffee loves me back. Can anyone else see the little heart shape in my coffee cup? It's important for me to note here before we get started that all of the antler pieces I'm using were ethically sourced from antlers that were naturally shed. No deer were harmed for these materials. I started out with several pieces of antler and my collection of crystal points. I wanted to match up the points and the handles to see which pairings felt the best. I ended up liking this piece of antler with a large clear quartz crystal point. The sawn edge of the antler handle had a thin edge jutting out, so I decided to file it back a little bit to fit the width of the crystal point more closely. The antler had a very straight cut, but the piece of quartz crystal did not have a flat end, so I used a piece of polymer clay to fit in between the space between the handle and the crystal. I wanted to create a straight wand. Then I rolled out a piece of green polymer clay and wrapped it around the center to join the crystal and the antler. I used green clay to complement the malachite cabochon I chose to decorate the wand. I made a flat spot for the cabochon, and then it was time to bake the wand. I like to place my clay items on a piece of batting in a baking pan so that the clay doesn't get flattened where it touches the pan. While the wand was baking, I started to prepare some other colors of clay. I chose aqua and lime green and some more leaf green. Working on a piece of parchment paper, I rolled out a few thin snakes of each color and created some little leaf shapes and tiny dots as well. Before moving on to the next part, it's really important that the wand has completely cooled after baking. I really didn't have a specific plan for decorating the wand. I placed the malachite down in the center and just began to wind the three colors of clay around the cabochon. Malachite is one of my favorite gemstones. Mining it began in ancient Egypt almost 6,000 years ago. It brings good luck, safe travel, and protection, good health, success, and affection. Clear quartz crystal amplifies the qualities of other gems near it. Once all the clay snakes were wound around the malachite, I started looking for spots to add the leaves. I tucked them into the snakes, making sure to vary the colors, and I used a dotting tool to add some detail. And finally, I added the small dots of clay around the leaves. Once I was happy with everything, it was time to pop it back into the oven for a final bake. Once the wand was completely baked and also completely cooled, it was time for the final step, and that's to add a layer of gloss glaze on the clay. Many species of deer shed their antlers once a year, anywhere between January and April in the northern hemisphere. The stag will shed them after mating season has come to an end and regrow a new pair during the summer. Antler has been used for magical purposes for hundreds of years. It's typically considered to correspond with masculine and solar energy and the elements of fire and earth. Because they're shed and regrown every year, antlers represent the life and death and rebirth cycle. For this reason, and because antlers are grown from the deer's skeletal system, they're bone rather than horn and can be used in ancestral work. Antler can also represent the spirit of the animal it came from. The antlered stag represents wisdom, nobility, protection, and being farsighted. Creating a wand with this material can be a good way to represent male energy on your altar if you don't want to have a typical athame or blade in your sacred space. Use a wand to cast a circle, to draw sacred symbols, and guide energy in your magical workings.